What data is provided? Part 1. In this module, I will look at some of the key aspects of the CAT4 reports within the group report for teachers and the individual student report for teachers. The initial report provides useful distribution data for the school cohort compared to the national norm. Each battery is shown and given an insight to the whole school strengths and weaknesses against a national norm. One area for thought would be resourcing considerations to match student percentages within the various ability bands and reasoning types. The scattergraph report for the whole cohort gives a very clear visual representation of the student distribution, both in terms of actual standardized age score levels and the relative difference in spatial and verbal scores. This relative difference is used to classify students in terms of their learning bias. This bias forms the basis of the narrative report we will see in the individual student report for teachers. To ensure that an individual's bias is recognized, this report lists the names of students that fall within each of the 7 groups from extreme verbal bias to extreme spatial bias. Bullet points giving possible manifestations of the type of bias are also given here. Implications for teaching and learning are further explored in the individual student report for teachers. It is important here to remember that the bias must be considered alongside absolute standardized scores in the interpretation of student data. Benchmark indicators are given for core Key Stage 2 subject areas. The indicators are based on the 50th percentile, first column under subject heading, and 75th percentile, second column, performance level of students in the past with the same ability score as the group members. The 75th percentile level would be considered challenging, as only 25% of students with that ability score in the past reached that performance level. The GCSE indicators are created as previously described and are available for a wide range of subject areas. They are displayed here for the new number system, but are also reported as grades. The indicators are not targets in themselves, but when taken with a wider knowledge of the individual, give a very useful benchmark. Indicators for A2 and A-level are also available. At the top of the first report, in the individual report section, the area headed scores gives data for all 4 batteries, where the group report for teachers has concentrated on the verbal spatial bias. Quantitative scores may be of particular interest in relation to possible mathematical performance comparisons. The scattergraph gives the bias information for the individual student. The individual student report for teachers contains a very useful extended narrative section describing the individual's particular bias and the implications for teaching and learning. This makes an excellent starting point for the process of personalizing learning, considering a student's cognitive strengths and areas of development. An individual's indicators are shown here in the form of a chances table. This is an excellent way of ensuring staff and students understand that although indicators are given as a benchmark, they are not limiting, and outcomes are still heavily influenced by factors specific to the student.